What up, everybody? This your boy P-Funk, aka TBSP, the Bus Stop Philosopher, on YouTube. And what you watching is the No Broadcast. Alright, today is Monday, March 16th, 2020. And just doing a quick video, I want to talk real quickly about vulnerability. And for the far as the context is from, just from an American perspective and a perspective of, I'm not rich, so put it that way. We all watched the president make a statement on coronavirus, and all of the details aside, I just want to get into what, as a person who's in a vulnerable spot, what you might have seen or what you might have gleaned about all of that. So I'm just going to recap a couple things that was said, and then my perspective on that from the perspective of the vulnerable people out there that's vulnerable or whatever, or susceptible and everything else like that. So we heard, about how strong the financial institutions or all of that was. So that was a part where we heard this.
Our banks and financial institutions are fully capitalized and incredibly strong. Our unemployment is at a historic low. This vast economic prosperity gives us flexibility, reserves, and resources to handle any threat that comes our way.
The working poor is what boosts unemployment numbers. And you have giant corporations that don't pay benefits to people, so then they're subsidized by welfare and everything else like that. But now they're vulnerable because, like, for instance, say I work at a box store or something like that, and I get food stamps because I don't make a lot of money. But now the food stamps, I'm vulnerable from getting cut off for the food stamps, and I'm vulnerable from not being able to get the income from the job. So now that's a double whammy, and we've watched the situation with the president and all of the gimmicks, I'll call it, towards certain groups of people. Gimmicks. Okay, even the federal workers, you'll remember, were used as bargaining chip over budget or whatever, or appropriation of money, however you want to put it, where they shut down the government for what? He wants the money to build a wall. But see, that's not what we need. We need it, and they've said it, we can use infrastructure, we can use satellites and drones and GPS and cameras, like we don't have to, like all of our energy was put into this, the wall itself and the argument over it, like, so then this wall argument caused a government shutdown, which would cause the vulnerable federal workers to have to do, work Uber and deliver pizzas and do whatever else, sell newspapers, sell lemonade. And, you had the people in the cabinet were like, oh, well, just go take out a loan. It's a federal loan. You're a federal employee. Wilbur Ross or whatever, he doesn't know what these people need their money for. Hey, they got certain people, you need cash for certain things. Hey, they might want to go gambling because they so in debt. They might need some cash to go gambling. They can't just take out a loan and go to the casino. They need the money, the cash. Hey, they might need to go and buy some drugs, legal or illegal or whatever. I might want to go and buy some legal substance, but they want cash. You know what I mean? Like, I can't take my government loan up and buy me a bottle of booze or whatever if I'm a government employee, because I'm depressed because of how the government is treating me. Okay? And the same time, we watched, oh, well, the big banks are vulnerable, so let's make sure that our banks are all right. So then we had to listen to this.
This is not a financial crisis. This is just a temporary moment of time that we will overcome.
And all that bullshit about how, the financial institutions are fully capitalized and incredibly strong. But at the same time, more tax cuts for them, payroll tax cut. Go ahead and push off more money from into their, in the name of the worker, push more money off to that. But don't give them free Medicare. Don't give them free benefits. Make sure you get the benefit from them, but don't make sure you don't give them anything. And that's really, because the population, the working poor is vulnerable to these things. And it's all played out like, oh, the big banks are so vulnerable. No, no, we can't do that. We can't give out free testing. No, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. But we can afford a military budget that's another country to itself. That's another story, though. But um, this subsidizing of the businesses, it just allow business to continue taking advantage of the working poor. And that's just to stabilize the business moving forward, because they may not even need the working poor in the new economy. There's a lot of, automation and, business structures change, and supply chains and all of that is about to be seriously disrupted by the carbon fighter. If you know what that is, if you know what I mean. So all of that capital, liquidity, and loans is like, well, you know what? The big companies are so vulnerable, then maybe the president himself should explain what his plan is. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, the president of the United States.
I am instructing the Small Business Administration to exercise available authority to provide capital and liquidity to firms affected by the coronavirus. Effective immediately, the SBA will begin providing economic loans in affected states and territories.
All right. Okay. A moment of time, we're going to overcome as a nation and everything. Okay, obviously he's reading off teleprompter. That's fine. That's cool. But it's just the tone of it's like, oh, well, we're going to give out small business loans to these firms, whatever the fuck firms is, and everything else like that. And you leaving so many people vulnerable, not only because of the lack of the testing being available. That's another story. That's another video for another day or whatever. But the vulnerable people continue to be, if you want to call it, victimized or traumatized or taken advantage of. Excuse me, I'm touching my face, but as you can see, I'm where I want to be, and there's no other living creature in here. So anyhow, the vulnerability factor is, they put so much BS into it, where it's like, oh, well, if you're over 60 and, you need to be taking special caution, and if you're this group or, that group, and you should be, but then you see the people that are the president's old and touching every fucking body. And, okay, well, maybe you do have, better medical and everything else like that, but all they want to do is just taking advantage of the human spirit or whatever, the human vitality, where there's you even if you give Medicare for all, right, there you have either, a lot of people have either no medical insurance or government coverage, which has shown to be far less thorough than private. And that's just to put it lightly. You just get a little bit better with the private insurance. You get a somewhat better experience, we'll call it, or a somewhat better comprehensive, um, comprehensive joint when you get into the hospital system or whatever, and it's just a system of separation where everybody ought to be getting the same care. Your income standard changes your medical care standard, because if you're, like right now, testing, the athletes getting it, the actors, the diplomats getting it because the access to it by money. If, that changes your standard, and, by the use of them using subsidies to try to take advantage of the situation, that's why it's moving so slow, because it's only fueling a for-profit behavior, right? So it's a for-profit behavior. So we're going to slow this down until we can make some money. It's like as if there was a whole bunch of grapes that needed to be um, smashed to make a remedy or something like that. And they're like, hold on, wait a minute. We can't give y'all these grapes and let y'all do the remedy. We got to do this carefully and controlled. And, we got this under control when the answer is right there in our faces. Okay. Yeah, it costs money for testing. But by the time the government get the money, you won't need the test. You'll be positive by then. Okay. And we got to take care of our weak and our vulnerable people. People, wash your hands. Do like some people, if you want to, wear gloves. I mean, that kind of helps with the carrying it from transfer, because the surface or whatever doesn't carry it very well or whatnot, or disposable, etc. So do be safe. Absolutely, not saying that, but right now Americans have a weak, like a collectively weak immune system for America right now. And what's weak right now is Americans' vulnerability to bullshit. Because for the last few years, the American people have been fed so much bullshit that we either don't or can't smell it anymore. And our collective immune systems are compromised due to the stress. And what we really need to ask ourselves is, how do we protect ourselves from that? All right, thanks for watching. I appreciate all of y'all. You want to support the channel, just do some clicks or whatever. I'll put some links down. I keep meaning to put some links in there. I'll put some links in the connections below. You just watched